Have you ever thought that Cinderella, the symbol of virtue and childhood dreams, was actually a cold, patient mastermind who orchestrated the sweetest revenge in fairy tale history, step by step? No, she wasn't a meek victim. She was a survivor in the truest sense of the word. Someone who understood timing, knew when to stay silent, and when to put on high heels and finish off a toxic family.
1. The story doesn't start with the shoe. It starts with a funeral. Most people remember the glass slipper, the ball, the pumpkin carriage. But the truth is, Cinderella's story begins with death. Not the death of magic, but the death of the only person who loved her unconditionally, her mother. After that, her father, a man who wasn't cruel, but showed no signs of being a protector either, quietly disappeared from family power. He remarried, a powerful, sharp woman with 2 daughters who were always allowed to hold their heads high by stepping on Cinderella's back. Her real name vanished. She was called by a name that suggested punishment, Cinderella, the girl covered in ashes, an identity tied to kitchens, soot, and submission. And so you have a complete toxic family model. A stepmother who operates like a CEO with extremely biased HR policies. 2 stepsisters as favored employees, getting promoted every time they scream louder. A temp worker named Cinderella, no salary, no voice, no job security. And a father, as if he'd been muted since chapter 1. If this isn't a terrible startup, then it's a family where every traditional image is just camouflage for exploitation. But the frightening thing isn't in their behavior, it's in Cinderella's response. She doesn't cry and beg. She doesn't struggle or expose her sisters. She doesn't run away. She chooses to wait, but not waiting for luck from a fairy godmother, not waiting for someone to pity her. She waits for the right moment, for everything to collapse, and she just needs to step out gracefully. Cinderella in this section isn't a victim. She's a strategic survivor, someone who understands that in a toxic environment, speaking up at the wrong time is suicide, and staying silent at the right time is, well, eliminating an entire system.
2. The shoe isn't for trying on. It's a trap. You think she accidentally dropped the shoe? How sweet. But try to imagine a girl in a ball gown that reaches her ankles, running hurriedly down marble stairs, doesn't trip, doesn't fall, doesn't tear her dress, and strangely only drops exactly 1 shoe? Not 2, not a piece of fabric, but 1 perfectly fitting, transparent, perfect shoe, enough to make the entire kingdom launch a national search campaign? That wasn't an accidental slip. That was the most sophisticated retreat strategy in fairy tale history. That was dropping the mic. The way she left the party, without saying a word, but leaving a mark that kept people awake at night. And the prince? The one who thought he was choosing a wife? He'd actually just been put into a blind identification campaign. No name, no face, no profile, no mutual friends. Cinderella left nothing but a fragment of memory and a shoe. And that's exactly what made her an untraceable dream. Unlike other girls lining up to try on the shoe, she had vanished, driving him crazy because he didn't know how to find her again. She didn't try to be chosen. She created an obsession so intense that others had to launch a manhunt for her. And the stepsisters? They cut their feet, forcing blood to squeeze into the shoe, an image both tragic and satirical because they'd spent their whole lives believing that to get what you want, you just need to endure pain. But no. The shoe wasn't for those who suffer, it was for those who know how to fall at the right moment. Here, the shoe is no longer a sign of love. It's a symbolic trap, something Cinderella designed as a trigger aimed straight at the prince's ego, someone who thought he held the power of choice. Reality? He didn't choose her. She made it impossible for him to choose anyone else.
3. Decoded. This isn't a love story. This is a complete survival plan. Forget the ball gown, pumpkin carriage, and singing birds. Look straight at the truth. Cinderella was a child trapped in a toxic family system with no one to save her, and she taught herself to survive with the only weapon she had: silence. She didn't argue with her stepmother, didn't complain to her father, didn't run away in the middle of a rainy night. She stayed, but not because she was weak, because she understood. Impulsive reactions only make you lose faster. She chose to wait, and while waiting, she built her own network. She befriended things that never betray: birds, hazel trees, animals, nature. Beings that need no words, no flattery, no status, just sincerity. She learned to observe silently. She saw her stepmother's ego, her two sisters' stupid greed, and even society's naivety in thinking that beauty always comes with weakness. And then the ball arrived. But she didn't go as anyone's daughter. She appeared as a beautiful ghost. No background, no name, no status. She didn't belong to any hierarchical system, and that's exactly what drove the prince wild. He couldn't categorize her, didn't know which region she was from, what dowry she had, what religion she followed, whether she belonged to any political faction. He only knew she danced like she wasn't afraid of losing anything, and then disappeared as if she'd never existed. She became a perfect unknown, the thing human psychology hates most because it can't be controlled. And that was Cinderella's art, not making others pity her, but making them unable to stop thinking about her. The glass slipper, the most fragile thing in the world, wasn't just a symbol of delicate beauty. It was an image of herself, perfect, sparkling, but if held wrong, it would shatter. Sisters cutting their feet, blood flowing everywhere? That wasn't a test. That was the nakedness of a society willing to shed blood, fighting over an image, while the truly formidable person just stood still and waited for everything to collapse at the right moment. Cinderella didn't win because of luck. She won because she didn't destroy the game before the opportunity arrived.
4. Cinderella didn't wait for the prince. She waited for the moment. At this point, we must admit, Cinderella didn't need to be saved. She knew she would win, just wasn't sure when. She wasn't the good girl we thought she was. She was a survivor, a fairy tale style survivor, someone who understood that in this society, silence isn't always weakness. Sometimes it's the supreme strategy. She didn't speak up, didn't rebel, didn't fight. She just waited for everyone to fall asleep in their contempt, then stepped out at exactly the right moment, when the shoe was still warm, when the memory was still fresh, when the chaos was just enough to make every system collapse. The ball was the opportunity, the shoe was the marker, the prince was the shuttle, and marriage was the escape route. Not because of love, but because society only recognizes change when it comes with a new status. So don't let the princess dress fool you. This isn't a fairy tale romance. This is a complete escape plan, where the girl who endures best wins. And the beauty is, she didn't need to harm anyone. She just stood still, letting everyone reveal their own inadequacies. The stepmother destroyed her own credibility with cruelty. The sisters exposed their true nature with blood and greed. The prince humiliated himself going around trying shoes everywhere, like someone searching for clues in a failed case. And her? She didn't need to win the crown. She just needed to make the entire kingdom investigate her footprint.
So, next time you see someone quiet, not complaining, not resisting, just smiling softly and continuing to wash dishes, don't assume they're weak. Very likely that's a modern version of Cinderella, someone who knows that loud revenge isn't as effective as a single step that makes the entire system bow down. The glass slipper wasn't for anyone trying to squeeze their foot in. It was for someone patient enough, silent long enough, and who knew exactly when to leave, like a declaration. Leave a comment, and don't forget to subscribe to Fictional Depths so we can continue decoding characters who seem familiar but turn out to be very unfamiliar.